Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be talking about procedural shading in Arnold 5 because there's a little difference compared to Arnold 4, where I was mostly using AL surface shaders and AL layer and all that stuff. And in Arnold 5, it's a bit different because they all support shader closures, which means you can actually mix shaders together and have efficient render speed. So before we jump into setting up the shaders, I just want to show you a community I have started on Slack, which is pretty helpful if you want to get quick questions or if you want to ask questions and get quick replies. So I've started up this Slack group. For people who don't know what Slack is, it's mostly like a big chat room, but it's mostly directed to a team, and the team would be now the light shader team, and you can join this team and have questions regarding OSL or regarding my light shadow package or just general surface questions, whatever. And people will share their stuff, and it's more like a collaboration, quick chats, whatever. So if you want to join, um, the link will be in the description below, and you can also go to my light shader page, um, lightshader.de, and at the bottom you can find the Slack button, and you just join there, and then you're part of the big group, and yeah, let's get together. It's easier for me to know the people which are around me and work with. So, and then I also have the Patron page. I guess I don't want to spam you guys with all the stuff I'm doing, but it would be nice if you could support me on Patreon as well, just to give me more input and more motivation to create more content. So let's jump right into this, and I want to create a like kind of a used metal look I used to do in the AL like MtoA 10 something series. So it will be similar, but it will be all using a separate shader for each, and then I'm blending them together using noises and masks. So it's a bit different, but it's like the general way of working is still the same. But I just want to show you again how it's set up. So you can see the viewport looks a bit different this time. It's actually pretty interactive now, and it resembles the render pretty good. So you can actually see if I would rotate the light now, um, that you see that the reflection is changing on the object, and it's pretty accurate to the render, so that's pretty neat. And it's all I did was actually enabling textures, light, and then multi-sampling if you want to have a smoother render. So, and you can see if I move it over, here's my shading network, and if I change the values, it actually works pretty awesome. Roughness values work. They're still developing this, so unfortunately you cannot plug in any maps to the roughness to control it, so that there's a big limitation, and not all the Arnold shaders support viewport 2 rendering, especially mixed nodes. All the noises don't really work, which is a bit of a pain, but they will be working on that to fix that. Okay, so the general idea is to create several shaders first, like clean or whatever you want to have them look like. Create them first, so you have different layers of shaders, and then all you got to do is use the mix shader node to blend those finished shaders together. The cool thing is it also works with bump maps and everything, so there's no need to have like adjusted bump maps. You just have a bump map for one shader and then you blend them together. So my reference is what I will show you now. Create a file texture node, and a few people ask me how I do this. How do I see my reference image in the hypershade? So this is how I do it. I create a file node, I browse to the image, which is it's not in source images, but it's almost in source images. It's here. Okay, so now you can see it's happening there, and then in the hypershade I go to material viewer, and I can see it right here. And then there's this lock button, I think. Oh, the solo mode. I think that's the one I was using, so it does not deselect it. Yeah. So this is how I did it, and then you can just dock it somewhere. And then you have your reference in here, right? And that's how I did it. You can also like, where sRGB should be the right one. Okay, so this is how it is looking, and I want to create, I will create 3 shaders. One is this paint, the other one is the rust, and then I will create like a bare metal. something which has not been yet corroded by time or water or salt or wherever this fancy Buddha is placed. Anyways, okay. And I like to be descriptive about my shaders, which is a good habit to do that. So AI standard shader, standard surface, that's the one. It keeps creating shading engines, which I don't need in this case. So let's just call this AI metal, just really simple. Control D, duplicate, Control D, duplicate. So metal, rust, paint. Is that all? Metal, rust, paint. I think that was it. Metal, rust. And then we have the paint layer. Okay, so these three guys, I will set up the mixing of shaders right now, but then I'll fine tune them later on. And unfortunately then it breaks in the viewport. But okay, well, yeah, anyways, let's set that up quickly. Mix shader 1. And then we need 2 mix shaders because we've got 3 shaders. I hope that makes sense. So I just sort them now by layers, right? So metal is first, then let's just do rust and paint. So the layers are okay. So out color goes to shader 1. This goes to shader 2. This guy goes to shader 1, which is the output of the first mix. And this guy goes to the shader 2, and this one goes in here. And then the viewport breaks, just as I told you, because it's not supported. The mix shader does not have the VP, the viewport connections. So this is just AI mix metal and rust. And this is AI mix rust and paint. Right, so this is the order. I click save. I'll be saving often. It takes a while to save because the Buddha has a very high resolution mesh, so it takes a while to save. Okay, and I will delete the Buddha now. And this will be the shading engine of the final product, so I'll just keep it called Buddha. And you can actually remove or hide this file node at the bottom. I also have a tool in my light shader settings. If you want to download them, you get them as well in here. And in the helper, there's like an automatic renamer. You can do it on selected or on everything. I will just do it on the selected file node now, and you can see what's happening. It will take the file name and paste it as a reference here, and then it will name it accordingly. So it's called actually file reference. I'm not sure why. I think it's 5. The file node is removing the file node name in the display. I'm not sure why, but anyways. Okay, so this is the setup. And just to start in the viewport, what I do, I will just connect this metal first to my base, to the shading engine, and then we get it back in the viewport, right? So I will just fine tune it in the viewport quickly just to get the overall look of the metal for all 3 layers, and then we fine tune them using the Arnold render view, right? So I'm selecting the metal, and you can see on the right, this is my basic setup. I like to have the weight on 1, and then for metal, enable that, and you get a pure chrome metal, right? We want something like iron, so it's not as refractive. So you can just dial it down, and obviously you need to increase some roughness values on this guy. And so we will introduce roughness maps and a bump map just to break out the surface a bit. And this is my basic metal. It's nothing fancy, really simple. And then for the rust is more a diffuse layer. And so we will connect this guy first. And now I will just color pick something here from the rust, which does not seem to work. Why is that? Interesting. All that stuff works. Super weird. So here it picks up here a color from the rust. That's some bug here. Anyways, let's just maybe then dial it in a bit more. So it can be a bit more reddish, something like this. And obviously we will add a noise to add more detail, right? So, and let's just bring in the roughness, and this was will have a heavy bump map on it just to break it up. So this is base my base rust. You can introduce a bit of metal, but in real life, rust is a dielectric. So if you want to have a bit more visual difference, you can play with the metalness, but it shouldn't be on actually. And then the last thing is the paint. So let's connect that guy up like this. And let's just choose this green teal color. Let's see if we get this now. We don't. So what we can also do, I have it here. Whoa. Oh, it's actually a bit different. Let's see if this works. If I make it on top, let's see if I can pick the color now. Oh, I can. Interesting. Okay, so let's just choose this color. Awesome. Add some roughness. And these are my three base shaders. And what I then like to do, let's just keep this open but smaller. I like to create, this is my typical workflow now, right? So I like to create 3 tabs for those 3 shaders. If you have more, obviously more shaders and more tabs. So this will be my AI rust. Then we create another one and another one. AI metal. Yeah, almost. AI, it's not updating, so that's also another bug. AI metal and AI. That's AI paint. Okay. So the metal will go in here. So it's just the metal right here. And the paint goes in here. Like so. And we can actually just do this. And this is just, okay, let's just keep the Buddha in here as well. AI Buddha, which has everything in it, right? So I'm connecting this up quickly. So like this. And then the Buddha goes in here. One sort, there we go. So this is my shading network. And then I have, for each part, I've got their own tab. It's just more organized and it's very clean and clear what's going on, right? Okay, so now actual shading part begins after 12 minutes. So, okay. I will keep them I will not keep them connected into the mix, or I just disable all the other ones. I think if it's off, it's always preferring the first shader. So right now we should be able to see just the metal if I start the render now. And let's see if this is true. Saving again and opening up Arnold. Render. It's on the other monitor, but yeah, it's correct. So let me bring this guy over. Yeah, so this is now the metal, and let's see if it's true. It is. Okay, there's still something else going on. Where is that coming from? Not here. Not sure. Is that because it's got the metalness on? Yeah, okay. It's all good, all good. All right, so when the blend weights aren't 0, it's always preferring shader 1, which is what I want. So I'm currently just working with the metal, right? So let's add some nice metal to this guy. I'll want to, yeah, let me just stop the render and I will just drop this guy in here. So I've got my render view next to that and I will hide the outliner so I've got more space. So this is now my way of my setup. And if you cannot dock things, it might be because there's a lock enabled on the top right. So if it's enabled, you are not allowed to dock anything new, which is actually what I want right now. So in the metal, let's start setting it up. So the first thing what I want to do is break up the roughness as a first thing. So I'll create a AI noise. Let's work with that. And let's just see how this would work. So you can actually, I will just work with Arnold nodes. So there will be no HSV remaps or anything. There is a range shader in MtoA, which is what I wanted to do, just controlling the input and input output values. So the red channel goes to input, or we can actually connect the color because it has an input color, and then the out color of this guy is the spec roughness, right? Okay. So ideally you would name them properly. Because it's a tutorial, I'm just showing you what it's supposed to be, or this is how I supposed to work, as how I work when I do work in production. Renderer, node type, and then whatever it is. So this will be metal spec R, right? This is the naming convention I use. You can actually use a semicolon in here, a underscore in here as well. Do this so it's even clearer. So it's renderer shader type. Renderer node type shader, and then attribute. So this is the order I am doing things. And this would, anyways, let's go. Saving again, and then let's start the render session. And run IPR, update full scene. Yeah. What is this? Wrong camera. I'm not sure why it's doing it. Sometimes it's using an orthographic camera. I'm not sure why. It's also a bug, I guess. Okay, so the spec R is connected. So if you click this button, it's isolate selected. So this is now the current input, and this is the noise. So what you can do is you can increase the, what else do we have? Let's just work with these. There should be scale right here. So let's just do 10. Just get some roughness guys in here. Bring in some distortion a little bit. Maybe add a bit more detail and scale it up a bit more. 25. Yeah. Then what else do we have? We have different colors. So this is just a roughness input output. This goes in here, and this goes now into the shader. So now you can see there's already a breakup happening. We are on a small render resolution, so we get faster feedback. But in general, this is what we get. So the range, you can control the maximum out color, which is currently 1. So if you want to have a roughness which does not go higher than 0.6, you enter 0.6. And then if you want to have a minimum float value, so it's not super shine, you can enter it here. So now you're giving it an output range from 0.1 to 0.6. So you've got 0.5 range difference. And then you can clamp certain values, so you can make more things shiny and less things very rough. So it depends on the look. For this, because it's a pretty old statue, I want it to be pretty rough. So I will keep this on 0, and I might actually reduce this a bit more so it gets more rough. And now the main output value should be 0.6, which you cannot see because it's cut off there. So let's do this then. Yeah, so it's 0.605 or something similar in that range. Okay. Let's see how this looks rendered. Okay, so you get this nice differentiation and you get this breakup. You can obviously now make it more rough or whatever you want to do. And now I will also like to change the metalness just a tiny bit based on dirt on it. So I will use occlusion for this. So ambient occlusion. This will drive the metalness, right? So I will also connect a range again because I want to have more fine control on how the output is. And then I want to connect the out color into the input, and this one connects to the metalness. Normally you don't really connect anything to this guy. Oh, sorry, I actually meant the color. Sorry about that. So I want to have different reflectance values based on occlusion. So this guy, the out color, now connects to the base color, and the default color now is a 0.3 value. So just keep that in mind. So I connect this guy, and now I need to make sure that I have everywhere 0.3, but on the occluded areas, I want to have a lower value, right? So let's do this first in here. This is now isolate selected on the occlusion node. I can control the distance, how big the influence area is, and you can see only the occluded area have now a different color. So I want the occluded areas to be black and the white parts 0.3 or 0.3, whatever it was, 0.315, I think. Okay, so you can see the default color is 0.3, and then the occluded areas get darker, which means that there is less reflection happening because it's dirty or whatever it is, right? So it might be not that apparent, but it gives an overall used look. So this is now my base metal, and I can also introduce a bump node, a bump map, which I want to do. And I need to speed things up because I'm rambling around for 8 minutes already just on the one shader. And this shouldn't be actually super long, but I guess it will be. And I don't want to create 3 parts because that's also annoying for you guys. So let's create a bump. A bump 2D, which is a Maya node. That's the only one I guess I will be using. Bump, oh, not that one. Is it that one? Oh, it is that one. Yeah. And then I want to create I might just reuse the noise yeah, let's just reuse the noise for now. And create a range first. You can see I'm getting lazy now with naming, so ideally you would name all these nodes properly. So let's just connect this guy to bump value. This goes to the normal. And the range now needs to be very subtle, but we will control it just in a second. So I'm just saving again. Sometimes if you do normal connections, it tends to crash. So I'm always a bit careful with that. But again, this is just how your experience is with this. So this is now a super strong bump. So that's why it's so crazy. So let's try a value of 0.1 here, 0.1 here. That's just 0.05. Okay, so now we can have we have more control in the bump node now. So 0.1 here, you can see something's happening now. So this is now looking way better than before. It might be still a bit too strong. Can we actually see the view, toolbar icons, debug? Is it actually writing to normal? I'm not sure, I don't think so. No, okay, anyways, let's just store this quickly and see the before and after. So no bump, bump and no bump. Yeah, you can see there is this nice effect happening here. It's subtle. You can add more detail to your bump maps or just combine several noises to get a more defined shape, but that's up to you. So I'm just showing you the principles here. So this is now my shading network for the metal, right? So now let's go to the Buddha, and because I cannot do this, it will, I think, oh, maybe it will work. Let's see. Okay, no, it does work. Okay, so now let's work on the rust. The rust is a dielectric, which means we have no metal on it. So I will just create like some noises mixed together or something. So let's use a noise with colors. So let's connect this guy up first, base color here. And let's just bring in the reference again. Yeah, so you can actually see that there is like you get the base rust and then you get the peeled off rust. So there's lots of colors you can choose from. So this guy's one, and this guy is this, for instance, right? 2 colors for now. Let's bring in the scale to 50. Okay, so now we have 2 colors, right? We can just isolate it first, just so that we see the raw color. I think 50 is too much, but let's just see. Some distortion, just break it up. We can actually, yeah, let's work with that. I just duplicate this guy, Control D, and I do a composite, AI composite, and A and B is 2 colors together. Out color A, out color B. Composite is like a Photoshop layer where you can blend different things together with different operators. Let's try small. Hard minus multiple overlay. Okay. Currently it's identical. So let's just change different colors now again. So let's just pick 2 colors. Let's go for this guy. Let's go for, I don't know, something really dark. So this is that, and let's now do different things. We don't have a seed value, but we have a time value. A time value is kind of seed, right? Seed is a different generation of that noise. So let's bring in, I don't know, let's make it smaller, like I don't know, the value smaller, but the noise bigger composite, and you can see now what's going on. This and this together gives me this, so we can now try different operations. Soft light might be interesting as well. You can't really, oh, you can actually step through them. I'm just using the keyboard up and down keys now, just until you get something interesting. Ideally you use they are like noise or generators, but I'm just combining several nodes now together. So let's just do one more noise, which will be high frequency. So we go up to maybe 125, like so. And I guess there are different ways of doing this. So this is just my quick approach to show you the procedural stuff. So out color goes here, this guy goes there. So this is now my high frequency. I want to make these things not too dark because we will multiply them on top. So instead of using whatever that is, we use multiply from here to here. Okay, so this might be still a bit too crazy. And you can actually lock your current output. So I'm now on AI Composite 2. I lock it. So if I select different nodes, it won't update. Okay, this is nicer. If I do put this on white, we should just get the one thing. That's cool. I think that's better. Yeah. Okay. So from here to here, and then obviously if you want to change the overall color, if you want to have bigger patterns, but I think for now this is pretty good. You can, okay, let's just do one one last thing. You can use occlusion actually to again to have like this dripping effect down or something like that. So, but anyways, let's not do that. That just takes too long. It's the same approach as we did here. Just connect a occlusion and connect it to multiply that value to the thing, right? Okay, sorry, I need to do this now. Okay, so that's that occlusion, and then we do another composite, AI composite, and this is it doesn't matter the order because multiplication does not care about order. And this is occlusion, so white won't be affecting it, and black will. And this needs to be on multiply. Boom, there you go. So now you have occlusion, and you can obviously change the color. So let's just do a red for that. And now you see that there is a red color in the base. So from this guy to this guy, that's what happens. So you get a bit more shape, especially in areas where there is occlusion, so which could be water pools or whatever. So this is my typical rust without any bump or reflection right now. So this is my my current look. So I will use now all these maps together. Let's quickly see if I use just the red channel for this. We can use this as a bump, right? We can try green or blue. Let's just use the red for the bump. So this is how I see which map I should use. So I stop the render, create a bump 2D node. I will also connect a range node. Let's hook them up. Red goes into output goes into the input of the range, and the red from the range goes to the bump, and the bump goes to the normal. And then of course we can also connect the noise to the spec roughness. But in this case, because it's a high frequency bump map, we might get away with just having the bump map connected to that. So let's just update full scene. Okay, obviously way too strong. So let's dial this down. This is off now. Change the spec just to be shiny so we can actually see what's going on. And let's bring in a bump. Okay, you can see it's very sensitive. So the output color can go really down. And now we have more control in here. Okay, you can see this is now getting there. I like the effect. And obviously you can now play with the roughness a bit. So let's create a range again. AI range, AIR range. And then we connect the composite out color. And this goes into the spec roughness. Let's check the isolate mode. And go to the red channel. So this is the output of the map, so we can see what values we have in pixel. Oh, this does not actually respect RGBs. Well, I need to check the first channel now. So it's from 0.1 to maybe 0.3, which might be a bit too low. So we need to bring it higher. So can I actually click here? No, I can't. Okay, so anyways, let's just increase the red. So now we have a range. I'm checking only this value, right? The first one here. So it goes up to 0.9, which is a bit much. Okay, 0.7, and the lowest I see was 0.1 now. So let's just put this to 0.2. And now we have an output range. And remember, we're just connecting the red to the roughness, so this is fine. Okay, as you can see, I failed miserably, so okay, let's just see the final step. It is definitely too shiny still for Rust, and it might be a bit too dark as well, but anyways, this is just a proof of concept for you guys, just to see the workflow. And I think it is okay. It's a bit dusty. We could introduce more bump, like more contrasty bump to lift things up and stuff like that. But for now, I guess this is okay. Saving, and now we do the paint. The paint is more a swirly noise pattern, ranging from light to darker teal colors, and there are some white spots on it, so let's just do that as well. So let's head over to the Buddha, and now the thing is interesting. This is now one or the other, and this is now, I need to put this on one to get the paint. Perfect. All right, so all I want to do for this guy, go to the paint tab. You can see it's empty for now, and I want to create a bigger, broader noise. Saving, hopefully not crashing. Saving, I will. So if I want to store this color, there's a little trick. I just do up and down, and then the color is stored in the first part again, which is pretty helpful. Okay, and I'll show you why. So AI noise. I'm currently just using that because that's the only one Arnold provides. There are obviously more. If you use OSL stuff, you can connect them up. I also have a few OSL shaders on my repo, and they are called, it's no noise stuff, but it's LS. So I've got a few like layer colors, something where you can actually connect several textures, and then you can blend them using masks. So I actually might use this for now, because then it's just a bit easier way to control. Let's just use it. This is an OSL shader, which is on my repo on lightshaders.de, and then it links you to Bitbucket. Okay, so the base color goes in here. Show all. So the out color goes into the base layer, and then the out color goes to the base color, and then both colors for now get this teal, or however you want to call it. So that's the same result, right? So for now, the layer color is just a pass-through node. and I just want to add a bit detail to the base color. So I'll increase this to maybe 10. That's just to make it more apparent. Let's just darken this guy down just to see what's going on. Okay, and you can see there's these bigger patterns. So let's just add more detail, more layers to the noise, and add more distortion to it as well. So now you can see what's going on. It looks like kind of paint swirls. The distortion might be a bit strong. Let's just bring it back. Okay. So this is now my distorted, and obviously this was too much. We might actually desaturate it just a bit. This one as well, like this. Okay, and now the layer color is a different way of masking things together. You can use the composite and just the overnode with the mask function, but this is more combined, right? So you've got the base color here, and if let's say I want to introduce this occlusion effect the same way as we did before, what I can do now is create an occlusion. AI amp. So that's the occlusion, and this will go into the mask of layer 1. So the out color red will connect, if I show all again, will go into the mix of layer 1. So what this is doing now, it is creating a alpha mask and saying whatever is white will be layer 1, whatever is black will be the base layer or the layer above, right? So I will show this to you. So let's first set this guy up better. So let's just do 2 or 3 as the depth, and then we can control this a bit more. Far clip, near clip, fall off, spread. I don't know, just to give it a bit more detail. Okay, so let's see if I got it wrong. Yeah, it's correct. So whatever is black in the mask will be the previous layer. So I want to invert this, right? So I want to just switch those colors up. So now whatever is white will be my layer 1. So now you can see what's going on. And now I can actually choose any color I want for layer 1. So I can choose yellow. So all these occluded areas get yellow or whatever. So this would be that. And what I can do now, I can just color correct this noise pattern. So I use the AI color correct, and input this guy in here. And then my layer 1 will be the color corrected version of the base layer. So currently it's the same, so there's no difference. But if I change, I don't know, hue shift or saturation, you should see that. Let's just lock this node to this layer color. You should see that there is something happening. If I multiply it down, you see that this is getting darker and only in that area. And if I increase the saturation, which seems not to really affect it, well, the hue does work. Anyway, so just a different color. And let's say I want to create those white spots. I will create an alpha mask for those spots using a noise. And the noise will be my mask. So I'm saving again. And I will connect the red channel to my layer 2 mix. And then I have all the control what color should go into that layer. I hope it does make sense. And now let's check the noise. And this should be pretty high resolution. So let's try 50. We might go even higher. Let's try 100. Yeah, I think that's okay. Distort this a bit, add detail, and now we do a range and connect this here and then the out color to the mix. And then we do some clamping. So whatever is white will be the spots. So I need to clamp it a bit. So you can see I just increased the input min, and whatever is white will be white spots in this case. So now you get red spots, black spots. So I want to change the color. You can either do the color correction thing again, or you can just use a color which will be replacing the other color. So I can do red spots now, and all this thing will go red. It seems though it's not working as expected. So maybe my shader is not working as I thought it would. Let's just do update full scene. Yeah, I think it's maybe not working as expected. So why is that? This is, oh, is it maybe going bigger than 1? Smooth step, which clamps values. Oh, yeah, that was it. It had values bigger than 1 and then my shader. So I need to actually clamp those mixed values. So now it's, I think, back to normal with the right white spots. So okay, it was a clamping issue. Okay, now I've got white spots on it, and obviously I can do a color correct again and just which would make more sense. So let's just AI color correct the base layer again. Connect this guy up, and the output goes to layer 2 color. And now let's just make this white, gamma it up, and then we should have white spots there. There we go. So this would be my paint layer, and we need to now work on the roughness of that. Currently it's a uniform roughness, and I think we'll just use a simple roughness value. We can actually just reuse this guy for which channel? Let's see. Let's just use red. I think that's a good one. And create a range. I hope you guys still follow. AI range. Okay. So input, and then we just output the red to the spec roughness. And this guy needs to be, let's see, how does it look? Okay. Too shiny. So let's just reduce this guy, make this brighter. You can look at the red values so you can see what's going on. Okay, so let's see how that looks. Too much. Okay, it might be definitely a bit too shiny. Okay, but anyway, so these are my 3 shaders now, and now comes the interesting thing to blend them all together. Okay, so it's saving. It takes a while. There we go. So this is now my paint layer, and then we have my 3 shaders, right? So 1, 2, 3. And then we got the 2 mixes together, which outputs to the Buddha. Currently no displacement, we just have bumps. We don't have a bump for the paint, which is fine. It doesn't matter really. So now comes the interesting part where we need to blend those 3 guys together. You can see that, right? So the first thing what I want to do is I want to create I first want to blend the rust and the paint together. So rust and this guy, right? What happened here? Let's just oh, I pressed on solo. Not ideal. Browser, I just need to select my texture, this guy, and add it, and solo this. There we go. And now we can just keep it here. Okay, so the first thing I want to create is a noise, which creates this kind of effect, right? So AI noise, and this will go in here in this slot, right? And the mix weight of this guy. So I will just create a range. I always like to have a range because I just have more control over it. And this will go in they should expose the mixes as well. Show all, and the red goes to the mix. Okay. It's currently just one color. So now let's connect the map to this guy. There we go. And now let's fine tune the noise. We need to have a very high contrast because you can see it's like this peeled off effect, right? So solo, you can actually press S as well to enable the solo mode. Some hotkeys there. Your mouse needs to be in that view though, otherwise it does not work. So 10, 10, 10, add detail and go to the range and bring in this clamping. You see what I'm doing? I'm really creating contrasty edges and we're missing lots of details. So let's just go up to 6. Okay, that's better. And let's see how else we can fine tune this. Smooth step enabled just to clamp those maps. Hard edges. So this would be now one layer, right? So let's see how that looks. It looks like this. Okay. So we need to add way more detail to this mask. And what you could do, you could actually create a new tab. Let's just do this to make it a bit more visual appealing. So let's create a new tab, call it Paint Mask, something like that. Select this and go to this node. And this is now our output. So this guy outputs into the mix, right? So this is our main right side output. And now we've got noise 1. Let's duplicate this and make a composite. You can also use a layer color node as well. It's up to you. It's like composite. This and this go into here. Okay. And now increase more finer detail up to 80. 80 might be too much. And this should be, we can try multiply. How does this yield? Okay, it's getting, we need to invert this, I think. Man, okay. I think 80 is as well too much. 30. Okay, I think this might also be a bit much here, the blending. So now, what do we get? So let's just control it a bit. So all you got to do is control these masks together and you can see the effect. So if you want to introduce more rust, obviously you need to work on those values, create them. This is now like a creative part of what you guys can do. So this is now what we have, and we can also use occlusion to control this mask. So we actually need occlusion. If we want to introduce occlusion as well, we need to have darker areas around occluded things. So we can just use AI composite again. The question is if it goes after. It goes after. So AI occlusion. If you have the same occlusion operations, like the same scale of the occlusion, you can actually reuse that, which I want to do for now. So I select this guy, plus it in here, which is just adding it to this graph as well. And then I'm using a composite again, and out color of this guy, out color of this guy. These guys get multiplied. And this one, I'm actually not sure if you can do this. No, I thought not. So this will be added to here, which is a composite, and this one connects now to the rust mix instead. There we go. Did not work as I expected it to. So how does this look? Oh, it does not work with that. You see now I need to create a new one. This one goes here. Okay, that's better. So let's go 3, something like that. and this gets multiplied. So we can now create a range. So that's the thing, you need to create so many nodes all the time. Just connect them up and work with that. So if I want to control the effect now, I can do this. So all these dark areas should get rust now. If I increase this a bit more, you can actually see what's going on. Then you can increase the range. And this is now all the occluded areas. You see, so occlusion base, then it gets like this. We can work with that a bit more. Yeah, so this would be the occluded thing. And let's see how it looks. You can see now all the occluded areas get more rust. And now let's introduce the metal part pretty quickly as well. So I want to have metal only on the worn cut edges. So I will use curvature for that. And you can see it gets pretty quickly pretty crowded in here. I'm not sure why they show up in here. Let's just think this is the composite. This needs to go away. Okay, so this is just a composite. And where's the mix here? And this one goes there. Okay, so we got the order back. And now we want to control this guy, right? So currently we need to control this now. So the thing is now, if you want to have the metal also over the paint, my order is wrong, right? Because now metal is only showing where the rust is. So if you want to have the metal also on the paint, you can either add another layer or you need to pass through those cuts through the other layers. But so for now, we will be first just using the curvature on the rust. So AI curvature. Nope, didn't crash this time, lucky me. Curvature. So this will connect to this mix weight. Let's see what happens if I do that. I get this dialog. So curvature red goes into the mix. And let's see how the curvature looks like this, which is correct. I just want it to be on the edges, but I want to multiply it so I get proper, like stronger values. So this is now trial and error. So you need to just work with those values. Can increase the radius a bit to make it stronger. And you can multiply this map with noises so it's a bit more broken up than this right now. So this is now what it looks like. You can see I need to invert it because the white thing is showing the rust and I want it to be the other way around. So this guy does not have a invert, which is unfortunate. So I will just create a range. You can also use Maya's reverse node or whatever. So this guy goes in here. And I want to invert this, so 1, 0. Okay, so now you should see some metal showing through these areas. It's very subtle because the curvature needs a bigger radius. Okay. You can see now you get metal showing through here and there and there and there. Yeah, so you can see the effect. And obviously if you want to create a dust layer on top of everything, you just create another mix with a really subtle value. And I will quickly set this up. So create another mix shader. I always tend to add dust. It just adds a bit more realism to everything. So this guy goes here. We create another AI standard. This one is ignored. This goes in here. This goes in here. Okay. So it's now on 0.5, 0, and progressive on. So this is my dust. Obviously, you can create detailed dust, like a bit textured, but for now, I'll just use a base color of like sandy. Let's just use this guy. No weight for now. A bit more yellow. Something like this. Sorry, I am a fan of occlusion. Okay, this goes into the base color, and this goes here, and this goes there as well with a darker value. Spread to 5 maybe. So we have darker values now where it's occluded, so more grease and dirt or whatever got collected in those occluded areas. And then we want to work on the roughness a bit. So rust has a roughness. It's just has a spec, but it's just very rough, depending how greasy or wet or whatever. But it's like rust has definitely a reflection on it. Keep that in mind. It's just very rough. And then we want to use another occlusion. I'll just create another one. You could actually reuse other ones now because I have several applications now. So this guy, red, goes into the mix, and this one goes into the 3, or let's say 8. Let's isolate that quickly. So whatever is dark will be the dust layer, right? So obviously you can create a range. You can see it gets quickly messy. So what I tend to do is press 1, rearrange the graph, and then, yeah, and then you need to find your nodes. So that's the one I want to control. So I create a range, one last range node, and out color goes here, and the mix goes in here. And now I want to control this, so this is very dusty in those corners. Yeah, so now you can see what we get. Dust collected in those areas. So let me just frame this up. Yeah, so render 100%. This off, update full scene. Okay, so please let me know if you have any questions regarding this workflow. It should be fairly straightforward. It's just creating your shaders for all your different layers, and then to make it the most realistic, you need to spend lots of time with those mixing layers. So all these masks where you mix those different layers together, that gives you the realism. As you can see, this is way too soft, right? Comparing this to the reference, it's way too soft. Damn it. Okay. So you can see they have actually really hard edges, which I don't have. So I would have to introduce more contrast. And the same goes for the curvature. I need to have way more contrast to make it more realistic, because currently it's just like blending them softly together. But the general idea, I think, is nicer because you can concentrate on just one shader and make it nice, and then you just blend them together. And because the previous approaches where you have one shader with lots of different blend modes together to create one uber shader with all those different values together. So it's definitely a different thing of doing things, but I think it's more user-friendly, definitely. Yeah, so if you like this video, I always keep forgetting to say that, give me a thumbs up, and it would be awesome if you would subscribe to my channel. We almost hit the 17K, which is pretty impressive. Like, I started more or less a year ago with, I don't know, 500 or something, and now I'm on 70K, which is a very big motivation for me, and it just tells me that you guys like what I'm doing. And if you want to support that, would be awesome to subscribe, because I can see more or less half of the views I get are from non-subscribers, and it would be awesome, obviously, if you would subscribe to become come on the notification squad. Yeah, so I'll be talking for 5 more seconds. Thank you guys for tuning in, and ask questions, join me on Slack, and have an awesome day and keep rendering.